Hello everyone. I understand it's just been a month after Prelims 2026, and even now aspirants are confused as to how to integrate prelims and mains preparation. It's a very natural mindset of aspirants to divert yourself, try to keep yourself busy with mains preparation because you just simply want to overlook what went wrong in Prelims 2026. You feel like running away from the failures of 2026. So you start diverting yourself into a new area that you feel that you have not even prepared. Let me prepare it in the next 6 months. But do not forget that all successful aspirants will keep on continuously integrating prelims along with their mains preparation. Especially after UPSC has given prelims a shocker like 2026, it makes even more reasons to spend considerable amount of time sharpening your prelim skills. And it's only with that sharpening comes what I call as the prelims eye. It's not something that naturally comes because you read NCRTs. It's not something that naturally comes because you attempted 4,000, 5,000 questions. No. It's a state of vigilance. It's a state of being continuously aware about what can UPSC frame as a question from the day's news. Any current affairs that you tend to read on a daily basis from PIB, PRS, Indian Express, Hindu, is your mind training yourself? Is your mind framing questions that can possibly be asked from a news that appears in the newspaper? And that too, a question which fits the latest standard of prelims, not the old type, but where multiple layers of statements are given. Is your mind able to construct questions out of the news? It's only those aspirants who are able to constantly think of a possible question that can be framed from the current affairs. They are the only ones who can develop what I call as the prelims eye. Others are simply diverting themselves from the problem. Others, if you think that the only solution for the next 6 months is I should somehow just finish my optional, finish my mains, GS preparation. Today, mains preparation has actually become very easy, right? When you the daily questions that I post in my Telegram channel, when I see the answers from aspirants, most of them seem to be giving the right set of answers. But how many of them will be able to write mains in the first place? That is all about whether they can successfully in the next 10 to 11 months develop this prelims eye or not. That is again a muscle to be trained on a daily basis. That's all about how long you spend with your newspaper. And trust me, for those who didn't clear prelims, this is a God-given wonderful time for you to develop this prelims eye. Because last 1 year, you would have been very busy with your classes, with your sessions going on. You may not have had that mindset to sit and patiently dissect every news, browse, branch out from the news and explore newer and newer areas, become naturally a more curious and a well-learned person. You may not have had the time to do all of that in the last year, but this is actually a time. Start it from now onwards. If you postpone your prelims preparation to January or the months after that, you will suddenly feel helpless once again when the test series start. That's why you need to guard yourself from sudden shocks in the month of January, and you can only do that if you spend at least 4 to 5 hours on newspapers every single day. You need a lot of activities. You need to actually have a meaningful engagement with newspaper. You should simply just not read, but you should also utilize. And if you ask me what is the difference between the two, utilizing newspaper is simultaneously making use of newspaper for both mains and prelims. And it's not some rocket science. It's just something that you have to get familiarized with. And if you have issues learning how to integrate prelims and mains preparation together from newspaper, I think you should better have a look at the self-study mentorship that I offer. Just have a look at it. The kind of daily activities that's given to students makes for a very integrated and a meaningful usage of their time, where from the same news, you have a mains perspective to look at. The same news, you can actually think on what prelims questions can possibly be framed. If you are not able to do, we are here to help you, and that's why you have this mentorship. This mentorship is primarily directed at that one singular purpose, and that is to develop a new prelims eye. If not, you sit with your newspaper every day. Sit, ask yourself, can this area be asked as a question? And if you are not sure how questions can possibly be framed from these areas, have a look at my Telegram channel. Every day, almost on a daily basis, there are free questions which mimic the quality of UPSC's prelims questions of 2026, which I keep posting. Try solving them. That's a way of how you get started to facing a high quality prelims question. And I don't see any other Telegram channels or forums on the internet coming up with this kind of a quality of question. That's because I spend time framing these questions. I look at the news, I compare it against the last year's question type, and based on that, I come up with the question. So solve it. Test yourself where you stand. Are you able to get at least one out of the two questions that I post every day correct? Even if you can get one question correct with the correct application of logic. Because the way I frame the questions, you will see that it's not only a test of the knowledge, it's also a test of comprehension, it's also a test of your stamina when you go through this long passage. That's all what gets tested in prelims. So that's why you need to constantly keep looking at the news that comes in the newspaper, constantly keep looking at the topics that you read on a daily basis. It could even be a topic as parliamentary privileges, right? But when you look at parliamentary privileges, also have a look at Article 105 of the Constitution. When you look at, let's say, world history, also keep looking at the map that you find in the world history parts, right? That map sense can get inside you, and who knows, that could actually be the reason to get one question right in your next prelims, right? So always have a thought as to what went wrong in your past prelims, and that's why you need to do this analysis, which I'll be showing in the screen right now. These are some analysis done by really smart students. They would have just missed clearing prelims this year by a very narrow margin, and it's they who have come up with this analysis. And after the analysis, what they get is this clarity. And this sheet is something that after performing this analysis, the aspirant should constantly keep on looking at the sheet. You should constantly be reminded about how your mind did not work in the exam hall. Only then you can ensure that your mind starts working in the way UPSC wants it to work in the exam hall. Right? So there are a few takeaways from this discussion. First, do not forget prelims preparation when you get busy with your mains content extraction. I have seen a lot of students with bundles of content not even clearing a prelims. Or there are aspirants who clear prelims and all the bundles of information they make are of no use when they actually go to UPSC's mains. Mains is also a test of spontaneity, right? It is not simply a function of how much all clerical notes you have already made. That's not actually about mains. At least that's not about cracking and making it to the highest ranks in mains. So do not forget to integrate prelims and mains preparation together. Always have a look at newspaper, news articles from the perspective of what questions can possibly be framed from these articles. If you cannot decide which areas to read, how to read, what more areas to read, do join in the self-study mentorship that's on offer. And lastly, keep solving questions on my Telegram channel that I post for free. That's the best way you can prepare yourself. That's the best way you can fortify yourself before your next prelims test series start. And lastly, do this prelims analysis. Constantly keep looking at your analysis sheet. Constantly let yourself be reminded of what went wrong in the exam hall. This is all that it takes. Thank you.